choking, and what do you say? You're trying to breathe, you're going, it went down the wrong pipe, right? That's aspiration. Okay? It's water or food goes where it shouldn't go. And if you eat, if you drink before you have surgery, there's a danger that the stuff that's in your stomach, even a little bit, will get up here in your throat and it will go down the wrong pipe, so to speak. And at the best, you'll get pneumonia, and at the worst, you will suffocate and die. That's why. You have preoperative fasting. Now, I looked at that and said, you know what's interesting about that, connecting it to what Jesus is trying to teach us about fasting, is that preoperative fasting is not the whole thing. It's not the whole deal that's going to get you better. Right? You understand what I'm saying? What is it? It's a part of it. It's an important part of getting better. It's an important part of healing. It's an important part of your body getting made well. It's a very, very important part of, but it isn't the whole deal. That's how I want you to understand fasting. The discipline and the control of fasting, of denying yourself things that you want but you don't need, is a part of. It is a part of moving closer to God. It is a part of reading Scripture and praying and things like that. It is a part. Fasting is a part of this larger, intentional, deliberate work of getting closer to God and being healed and being whole. See how that works? Fasting. Taking time to deny yourself so you don't choke on self-centeredness and selfishness. How about that? How about that as a way to remember? Why should I fast? So, well, just like preoperative surgery keeps me from choking on the ribeye steak I had the night before, fasting during Lent or any time, fasting from things that are hurting you or harming you, is a way to keep you from choking on self-centeredness, selfishness, or because we're going to talk about food, it's a way to help keep you from choking on things like diabetes. Fair enough? Obesity. That's what we're talking about. This idea of fasting, self-discipline. Again, I think we have a lot of different ideas about what fasting is, and I think for many people, when you're talking about fasting, many people do think about food. I've been talking about food, right? What do we usually associate with it? Somebody says, here, do you want a piece of this chocolate? And right now, this time of year, people say what? No, I've given it up for what?
Lent.
For Lent. We've almost made it a joke, unfortunately. So we pick something like that, and I think that's okay. I want to be careful here. I'm not going to put that down. I'm not going to put down that during Lent you make a conscious, deliberate, intentional decision to fast from things like eating meat, except on, like on Saturday or something, or to eat fish on Friday, or to give up chocolate, or to give up cigarettes, or to give up Jack Daniels, whatever. I think that's important, so I don't want to demean that. I'm trying to expand your thoughts so to understand that self-denial, self-discipline can involve food, but it can involve more things. And more than that, what I'm trying to get across to all of us is that Jesus said, when you fast, when you practice self-discipline, when you practice control, don't just make it an empty, mindless ritual. You with me? Don't make it a 40-day gimmicky diet so you can lose weight and look better for your class reunion. It's supposed to be deeper than that. Now, if you choose to give up food, to fast from a certain kind of food during Lent, good, that's not bad. In fact, this is part 2 of what I need to say today. I think that we need to take a deeper, honest look at food and our love affair with food, and I am the head, self-confessed sinner at the front of the line of my food and eating habits. All right? Now look, I like to eat. Anybody else? Admit. I spent 4 years in Louisiana, and let me tell you, those folks taught me how to eat. Okay, they taught me about good things, like fried catfish and fried shrimp and lots of it. Coca-Cola, And when I went down and hung out with the Cajun folks down in Acadiana, man, those people would eat. So I gained a real appreciation for food. And when I met my wife and we started dating and got married 20-some years ago, I looked at food, and she liked to eat healthy. She liked to eat good stuff like this. And I kind of planted a flag and stated my ground and said, here's the deal. I will eat what I want, when I want, and however much I want. So back off, right? Is that a true statement, Alana? Pretty much, thank you. I want you to know I'm telling the truth. Now that was my attitude. So I'm telling you this to say, don't for a second think that I've got this all figured out. Don't for a second think that I am suddenly gonna lecture you about eating habits when mine aren't that great, but I'm trying, and that's the point. Fair enough? Because we need to talk about food. We need to talk about this in light of God's call for us to thrive. When we talk about thriving and fasting, talking about food is something that's logical. And it's also, I realized, something that the church has ceded ground upon. Okay? We've been silent on this. And I said that in the focus, I'll say it again. The church and leaders in the church, we have allowed everyone else to talk about eating and exercise as connected to healthy lifestyle and thriving. And we have ceded that and not talked about it, and I think it's time we did talk about it, because we all know we got in that habit earlier of having to eat at least 2 meals a day. Amen? We've ceded the ground the church has. We have not added our voice to the information and the encouragement for people to make better choices about what they put into their bodies. And I'm standing here today saying we can't do that anymore. In fact, the church, if anything, not only have we allowed the diet books and the self-help books and the politicians and everybody else to tell us how we should eat, we have probably taken the opposite tack in the church, and we pride ourselves on the quality and the quantity of food we serve at potlucks, right? See, gluttony. You know, the gluttony is a sin, right? That's one sin we turn a blind eye to. Yeah, you know, we don't want to talk about gluttony. We'll talk about all the other sins in the church. We need to stop doing that, because we know that people are dying because of the way they choose to use their bodies. Amen? And it may not be you, but it's people around you. And that's why we have to talk about it. Not just today, not just once a year. It seems that everybody's talking about it but us. And the fact is, God made pretty clear that He has something to say about how we treat our bodies and what kind of food we eat. Whether I like it or not, God has something to say about that. And if you're not convinced yet, think about it like this. First we had Daniel and this word about what was going on in the Old Testament about how to eat. But what about this? Think about this scripture from 1 Corinthians. Do you not know that your body is a temple of the Holy Spirit? You are not your own. You were bought with a price. So glorify God with your body. See, God has something to say about this, whether we like it or not. God has a word for us about how we use our bodies, what we put into our bodies, how we exercise them and strengthen them. God has a word whether we like it or not. I know our inner 2-year-old comes up and goes, no, it's my body. It's mine. No, it's not. God says, no, it's not. You are not your own. You were bought for a price. Think of it like this. If you've ever borrowed a tool from a neighbor, if you've ever borrowed your neighbor's or your brother-in-law's or your friend's car, have you ever borrowed somebody's house? Have you ever borrowed a book? What'd you do with that borrowed thing? Did you tear it up? Did you abuse it? Trash it out? God has given us these bodies to use. This is the truth we get from Scripture. Again, the inner 2-year-old says, no, it's mine. This has been a hard lesson for me to learn. I'll say that. And I haven't got it. In 1989, I was a camp counselor at Camp Leslie Woods down in southern Iowa, and I always had Tabasco sauce with me. That's one of those other things that those fine folks in Louisiana taught me to appreciate, right? Is Tabasco. And if you've ever been to my office, I've probably got 50, 60, 70 bottles of hot sauce in there. Okay? In 1989, Reverend David Sharr was talking to me, and I thought he was joking. You know, he'd always give me a hard time about having to put Tabasco sauce on my food. And one night, I remember, like it was yesterday, with tears in his eyes, Reverend Dave Sharr said, Tom, there's so much salt in that Tabasco sauce and the hot pepper, and it's hard on your system. And you know, and this is where he got teary. He said, God has a plan and a purpose for you to bring people to Christ. And if you abuse your body, you're gonna show up in heaven too soon. That was 1989, and I kind of heard it, but I really didn't listen, right? Even again in 2003, I was working out with Mike Slaughter out in Kingsburg, and Mike Slaughter more or less said the same thing to me. He said, hey, if you show up in heaven too soon, God's going to be really mad at you. God's going to be angry with you. God's going to say, hey, I had things for you to do with that body and that mind, and you abused it. You showed up too soon. God's not going to be happy with you, Tom. That was in 2003, and I kind of was getting a little closer to getting it. But again, I say, it isn't an overnight thing. I confess that to you. God has plans and purpose for every one of us, for you guys. And that's why I feel so strongly compelled to talk about this. God has plans that we thrive. Not just exist, not just get by. And yes, what we put into our bodies and what we do with our bodies, it matters. It is, and it's personal. I know it is. It matters. How we take care of what God has given us. So to thrive, to really thrive, folks, I'm going to give this to you. What do you need to fast from? I can't answer that for you today, but you can. Or somebody that knows you and cares about you, that really loves you, they can tell you what you need to fast from. And I know, look, that's why I told you about how defiant I was, how I had to plant my stake in the ground and seed that, and not seed that territory, and say to my wife, hey, this is my territory. I can eat and drink whatever I want, whenever I want, how much I want, and it's none of your business. But here's the truth. She knew better than I. And she wanted me to change what I put in my body. Why? Because she hates me? Because she just wants to control me? Now listen to me, man. I know many times we think that's what those wives are trying to do, and sometimes they are, but a lot of times they're not. I'm being honest. And maybe that can go vice versa. This is the message as I understand it that comes from God. Because I love you. Because I have great plans for you. Because I plan to use you to change the world. Take care of what I've given you. Yes, it matters. And if you walk out of here today and you feel a little bit of guilt about what you're putting in your body, good. Okay? You can't act like you don't know what you know now. It matters what you put in your body and how you treat it, because God has plans for you. So you decide. What do you need to fast from this week? What do you need to change in your life? Where do you need to practice some self-discipline and self-control for the greater good of being used by God? You decide. I invite us to be in prayer about that.